a way to set stones that students can strive for. And some people take it to the point where it's like, oh, I'm a black belt, and they walk around with their chest out. But others, they know that when they get their black belt, it's just beginning.
Welcome, friends, to the Budo Brothers podcast. My name is David. Joining me, as always, are Eric and Kyle, founders of Budo Brothers. Guys, let's do this.
Can't wait to get started.
Let's do it.
All right. We're going to do an episode today on rank. And we'll say rank in the dojo. Let's start there.
Yeah.
And I have a very, very broad, fundamental question for you. And just putting on your thinking cap here, is rank in martial arts disappearing?
Man, I feel like it's under threat. I really feel like in this all equal society we're living in that, you know, there could be a time where parents get so upset about rank and kids not making rank. And I don't know, man, it's kind of scary. I feel like rank is a measure of experience. It's a measure of, and nothing else. It's literally just, hey, you've been at this.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're the best fighter in the room. It doesn't mean that at all. But you've been participating in this school or the system, getting that experience for the longest amount of time. One thing I do find that helps with rank specifically with martial arts is it kind of lets you know where the person is at within their martial arts journey without having to figure that out after like punching them or throwing them to the ground and them not finding out that they can fall or roll properly or something like that. But I think that this was a story that I was told. I don't know how true it was because it was told to me and I have no facts to back it up. But rank was created as a way to know what level of person to be trained at. It lets you know if you're a yellow belt where the knowledge of within that art you have. So like if you are a black belt or a brown belt or somebody who is at the higher end of the spectrum, don't go super hard on the person that just walked in the dojo and trying to like hurt them, right? Because they don't know how to handle that yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I mean, we are all about equality. But if somebody's trained longer than somebody else, that's just a fact.
Yes.
You know, and so, you know, my fear is that there's just so much that's going to be it's going to be viewed as discrimination. Like, well, why? And especially if little Johnny doesn't pass his test and it's like, oh, you're discriminating, and like it's like, no, it's about aptitude. It's about ability. You failed.
And martial arts is the only place still where they have ranking like that. Like even in school, the honors system and program at this high school that I went to doesn't exist anymore.
Gone.
You cannot get a honors degree or like exemplary because it makes other students feel bad. Like you can't be ranked in the top percentile because it makes other people feel bad. And when it comes to martial arts, it's a little bit to do with respect. When an elder walks into the room in a traditional martial arts, no matter who that person is, you show them respect by bowing or acknowledging them when you enter the room. There's certain mannerisms about like how you enter the dojo, how you enter onto the mats. I don't think those traditions are terrible. Like they serve a purpose and they keep things organized and structured.
Right. And
if you were to take it outside of martial arts into like a football team or something like that. Like not everybody's going to be the quarterback, right? The quarterback is like the star boy, right? Not you have to have offensive linemen, defensive linemen. You have to have your defensive backs. Not everybody gets to be the quarterback. And it's like life. Not everybody gets to be Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or whoever the biggest superstar is right now, The Rock. Even though people say I look like him. Not everybody gets to be that. You need to figure out where you fit within a system.
And I also think it's cool that you can look up to like, wow, I want to get there, you know, because somebody is at a high rank. I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be a black belt. You know,
Yes.
I wanted to say I'm a black belt. And even
They're the
though,
dojo rock stars, absolutely.
right. And just that in normal everyday language, the word black belt, it's just like, it has that awe. It has that, whoa, black belt, you know, you're a black belt. And literally, I was 13 when I got my black belt, and I know I could have gotten rocked. You know,
Yes.
I was in a youth program, and there's a lot of controversy around that too, where it's like, should there be 8-year-old black belts?
Yeah. And is that like a separate program from the adult black belts, or however it works?
How do you?
I just know from my experience, getting my black belt was one of the most rewarding things in anything I can remember, actually. It's because the system I was in didn't hand them out like freaking Pez. Like, you actually had to earn it.
Right.
You had to put in years of work to get it.
And I'm sure people actually failed tests.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
gone.
Yes. People didn't get it on the test. Absolutely. And when I got it, like, tears came to my eyes. I was like freaking happy about it, because like I worked freaking hard for this thing, and I finally like got it. It was such a rewarding experience, versus if you take away rank and make everything the same, or if you don't acknowledge it and just hand it out to everybody, you lose that feeling.
It loses its value.
And back to a point you said, people are scared to fail. Failing a belt test, failing a grade, failing an exam in school. There's nothing wrong with that.
Totally.
Like, failing something is not a bad thing. It's, you need more information, knowledge, or attributes in order to advance. And that has nothing wrong with the person you are or what you're doing. It's just, that's where you learn a lesson. That is the point in your life where you can either choose to grow, or you can stay the same.
Or shrink.
Or shrink, actually. Shrink.
And FAIL is, I love this when I first heard it. FAIL is an acronym. First action in learning. The first
that's
action
awesome.
in learning is failing, trying something and it not working out, and then taking the lesson and reiterating, trying again, and then succeeding.
But I want to flip this on the other side of the spectrum too, because the three of us all know of somebody in our life that hides behind rank and is egoic and takes advantage of it, and is like, they feel like they are more than or superior to a person just because of their belt ranking.
I don't spar because I'm too advanced.
Yes. I couldn't show you this move because it would probably kill you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's Kung Fu Panda, man. It's the wushu finger hold. It's very dangerous. Yeah, you can't do that with people.
And
you know, I think one of the elements to this too is rank being subjective versus objective. Because this is something as a dojo owner that I encountered it was like every week, and it drove me absolutely bonkers, because you would have, and a lot of times it's the parents, you would have the parent that's just saying, hey, look, like, I see this kid over here who's doing this, and my kid can do that thing better. Why is my kid not the higher rank? And I'm always like, hey, look, legitimate question. I appreciate you asking that question. And they are not that rank because they need time in their rank in order to develop and have experience and so on and so forth. You know, and I think one of the switches that we made in our dojo was taking the rank structure and trying to remove as much subjectiveness from it as possible.
Nice. Can you do this? Yes or no?
And I went into, I mean, I spent a year developing something proprietary for our school that was basically like, look, for this rank, you need all of these things. And if you don't have all of these things down, we had self-defense stuff. It was like, you need to have these 6 techniques down. You need to be able to do them left and right. You know, you need to be able to do them to a timer so you can get them out quickly and, everything in place. You needed these kata. This had to be done. You needed to be able to do these techniques when you're sparring, or these techniques on the ground, or, whatever other things that we had going on. And I actually had every single student in my school had their own, basically like a checklist, and it was front and back page. And we had multiple instructors reviewing each student, and they'd pull them aside and they'd say, okay, look, I want to see this kata. And then they would mark down, how was your speed and your timing on it? I'll give you a score of a 1, 2, or a 3. How was your precision on it? A 1, 2, or a 3. How was your balance? A 1, 2, and a 3. Did you make the proper turns? Did you do all of these things? And we would score it, and then score it from multiple instructors, because a kid could have a bad day or a kid could have a good day. Mm-hmm. And we took that information, and it was very, very clear. So if somebody was going for a purple belt, we had all of this set up. This is the material that you needed to know as white. This is what you needed to know as a yellow and orange, and now as a purple. And if anything within that realm fell below a mark where, we considered it, done well, then I'm sorry, you're not testing. But it let the students say, like, okay, now I have something concrete that I need to work on in order to get to my rank and the rank that I need to be. And so when everything was spelled out like that, it helped the parents, it helped the students for sure. Right. It really helped the adults, because we removed the whole thing of like, well, the instructor thinks you're pretty good and you've been here for a while, you're testing for a new rank. Because it doesn't help anybody.
Totally.
And that's what creates the questions between other students and other people and gets them talking, and you don't want that. So it totally transformed our school when we were able to do that for people.
So what do you guys feel is the purpose of rank in martial arts? It's not to determine the best fighter in the class. I don't think we've come to that conclusion. So what is the purpose behind rank?
I feel like it gives you as a student a progression and things to look towards. I can't wait to get to the next level. It's like a video game, I passed level 1, boom, all right, okay, got to the next level, and guess what? You had to do some things to get to that next level. So I feel like it's a way to not differentiate, but it's a way to set stones that students can strive for. And some people take it to the point where it's like, I'm a black belt, and they walk around with their chest out. But others, they know that when they get their black belt, it's just beginning. That's that true white belt mentality is that, And shout out to my sensei, because when I got my black belt, I have never been more humbled in my life. And the way they run it is that literally you are in a kumite until your brown belt falls off. And so as long as mine was about a good 90 minutes, man. Like I was drenched, and then they throw weapons in, and it was, but what I loved about it is that no matter how good you are, they always make sure that you accept this belt humbly. You've been humbled. There's going to be somebody in the school that they make sure is there for that night, because if you start feeling all hotshot, you get, and honestly, I've never felt like I didn't know so much than when I got my black belt. When I got my black belt, I literally felt like I knew nothing. And because I got so humbled, I was tested to my core. I was brought to the point where they look if you're going to give up. Right. It was a test of perseverance, and I made it. Yeah. I made it through. I pushed through, and I've never accepted something in such a humble state that was so beautiful and so pure. And it literally changed how I operate. It changed how I view things, because that whole black belt, when you strap it on, you're like, oh yeah, I got, I never felt like that. Every time I put that on, I'm like, I remember how I got this.
Yeah. And now I'm going to throw something out, because this has always rattled in my mind, and I don't think there is a right answer. I'm going to give you an example of two students, And I just want to hear you guys' thoughts on how they should be progressed due to rank. So the first person is a person with special needs, but they freaking love martial arts. It's all they talk about. They show up every class early, on point, but you know that person will never reach a physical skill set equivalent to the other black belts in your program. And then on the other side of the coin, you have a person who is ultra talented and can do things better than maybe even some of the black belts who's just starting the program, but lacks the humility, respect, the honor, and the I guess the more mental aspects of being a black belt. How do you grade these two different types of students in your program? Do you give the student who is, special needs and maybe not able to do some of the skills, like does he never get a black belt? Or she, sorry, does he or she never get a black belt? And the other person, the person who's just naturally talented, do they get their black belt right away because they could do all the mechanical stuff?
But they don't embody
but they don't, yeah. So I just want to know your thoughts about that. Because I don't think there's a right answer.
There's that saying of, it's the difference between being a martial artist and a partial artist. And so to me, a person who I would not want to rank up is the person who is mentally not there, because I really do believe that a black belt is a mental endeavor. You need to set a long-term goal. And this is the purpose behind rank, right? Is those incremental steps and that progression. It's not because you don't want somebody walking in the dojo and saying, okay, you're going to be going for a black belt eventually, and you have to do this list of 100 things. Go learn, right? You need to tell them, okay, look, these are the next things you need to learn to put in place as a foundation for the next rank, to set it up, all leading up to that black belt.
Right.
Now, if somebody's coming in and they're hot shotting, or they're not taking it too seriously because they have all of those, they may have all of the physical gifts in the world, but not taking it seriously. To me, that is not somebody that I would ever be comfortable teaching an advanced technique to, or putting in a scenario where they are being really competitive with others. That's something that I immediately stomped out as soon as they were in. And that person would usually end up as my partner for months at a time. Just to make sure, look, I need you right next to me under my wing because I'm going to show you the right way to do all these things. So you are in the correct headspace to be able to help others, and so on and so forth.
And it is, just on the flip side.
Yeah.
Just to clarify. So when you say someone who's mentally not there, we're talking about just them as their state of progression, where do they embody the virtues of martial arts? We're not talking about disabilities.
No, not at all. It's how serious are you actually taking this? Because if I have somebody who's, and I've had guys that were coming into the dojo and they're working 10-hour shifts and they're spending their hard-earned money to come on these mats, and they're working really hard, and maybe they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s even. They don't have flexibility, they don't have all those physical gifts, and then seeing somebody come in who's flipping around and not taking it seriously, that's, to me, that's insulting. You need to respect the people that are coming here and are putting in all this effort and all this work, and help them. Yeah. And be their partner, and be that person that can train, and be the person that's right next to them saying, hey, look, I'm stretching down here. Come on, you can go a little further. Come on. Those kinds of things. That's the kind of student that I would want. Right. Not the one, hot shotting. Now, in terms of somebody with special needs, that's something where they're so invested that you find a way to create, if it's a physical limitation, you find a way to create a metric that they can do. And that they will do, and that still pushes them. Yeah. Because you need that. You have to have that sense of accomplishment. And once you have that in place, that person's they're going to be a martial artist for the rest of their life.
Nice.
And it is that mental game, because now I want that person to go home and say, hey, I may have a disability, but there is absolutely zero that I can't do.
Love it.
Nice. And I really believe that martial arts training as a whole is something that can foster that mental attitude in absolutely anybody.
Love it.
That's really good.
So let me ask you guys this. What martial art do you think rank is most respect? Like it's most respect. Like you have a black belt and you didn't get that.
Mm-hmm. Getting worse and worse with time. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I was going to say the same thing.
They keep it very
you get
well
a black
regulated.
belt in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, you're respected. Like
yeah, you didn't show up for group class and just nobody failed. That's my fear. I really, really am scared that we're heading to a state where everybody passes and everybody gets, and regardless of straight up aptitude, your ability to execute and demonstrate your understanding and learning of the art. I really feel like the tendency, because we are in such a sensitive time right now where, as an instructor, you do have to choose who passes. And guess what? As the instructor, I can imagine it's a hell of a lot easier if everybody passes to the next level.
Sure.
And unfortunately, with marketing and businesses and how the world works, having people consistently giving them rewards keeps people involved in your program.
Right.
Giving them a belt every quarter is good business.
Good business, right?
Oh,
but
man, that drove me nuts.
But it waters down the core
dilutes.
Because it's not about the true meaning of the rank. Like, do you have what it takes to be this rank or don't you?
Right.
And with a lot of martial arts program, it's more on the business side of things. We have to keep the doors open. Let's give out a belt a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like other things in life too. The fitness industry is a prime example. You have so many Instagram fitness people who have no qualifications, no education. They figure out how to get themselves fit and have a six-pack, and all of a sudden are a guru.
Right.
Like, they have no qualification on educating other people, yet here they are spouting off about how they could change your freaking life. Life coaches, business coaches. In the words of Master Ken, it's a bunch of bullshit.
It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bullshit.
But having a system where your rank is a true reflection at where you're placed is very valuable.
It is.
And it means so much more when you make it to the next rank.
Exactly.
Have either of you been on a test or in a dojo on where somebody has just didn't pass the test, has failed out?
Yeah. Back in the day, it happened all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't get my green belt.
And in fact, in the space that we went, I've seen a few people just not pass the test.
Right.
Yeah. Like it. And that's why when I got the black belt with that program, it was in the ninjutsu. It was so rewarding because I knew it took me multiple years to get it. I can't even remember how long it was, but like it was a big chunk of my life. And I knew not everybody passed. But it was that teacher's choice to run his program like that.
Right.
He was okay with failing a few people or just not testing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I ran it, I told pretty much anybody that we handed out test letters, essentially. And that was a big day in the dojo. And I ended up changing it to not doing every quarter. I did a test every 6 months. And you may not be on it. And again, setting up a system where it was a black or white decision was really important, because then, okay, you have not met this metric. You had 6 months to do it. I'm sorry. Like, you're not testing. You don't get the letter. And cheer for the people who do get their letter because they're moving on and you want to be happy for them and support them, and all that kind of stuff. And on test day, what I told everybody is, look, you're here because you learned everything you needed to learn. Now you just got to get through what I'm going to throw at you. And so you're going to do this respectfully and you're not going to lose it. And I don't care if you cry. That's fine. If you bleed, totally good. Like, we got Band-Aids and bandages and antiseptic. We're all right, and get to the end of this test and you're going to get your belt because you already know everything you need to know. Right. And so now that then comes a physical test, but that was the mental test. So when I had a student that was a weak student that was losing it because of however many push-ups or burpees or whatever I made them do in between whatever other, things that I'm having them do. And we had something where it's like somebody may have 12 katas. It's like, okay, great. You've got 12 katas. You're doing 30 push-ups in between every single one as you're going through these. Right. And I want to see him as perfect as possible. So yeah, you're going to be doing nearly 400 push-ups through all of your kata because I want to see what happens, and I'm testing your head. And I did have people break down at that, in which case I said, look, today's not your day. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but if I've got somebody over here, I've got a kid who's 13 years old and he's in a boot because he sprained his ankle and he's doing the test anyway. And he's not, and yeah, he might be suffering through it, but he's accomplishing all this stuff. I'm not going to put you on that same level if you can't handle the same way this kid in a boot is handling it. Mm-hmm. And so I think it is really important to kind of establish both that, that metric of objective versus subjective, but also making sure people understand that there is a mental aspect to all this, and you can't be soft in your head and expect to learn all these things and have that rank and have, people that are looking up to you if you are incapable of handling that.
And another thing I think I want to add about rank is it doesn't define you.
Totally.
I think it's important to say it is a good way to kind of give you information about where you fit in within a certain area.
Skill set.
Yes.
It's a measure of skill set. It says nothing about you.
And I think it's valuable when you're sparring to know, okay, if I pair up with some other yellow belts, they're in around the same area as me. If I pair up with the brown belts, they're in around the same area as me. Mm-hmm. And I really do think that's important. But if you look at some of the best athletes in the world, Tom Brady is probably one of the best quarterbacks to ever grace the game of football. Mm-hmm. He was such a low draft pick. His rank was terrible. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. Rank doesn't define you, but it lets you fit in. Probably in high school, Michael Jordan wasn't good enough to be, but it, instead of turning him into quitting basketball, it motivated him to become Michael Jordan.
Right.
So was rank bad for him? No, it was information that I need to improve. Mm-hmm. And I just really hope that people listening to this don't think that we're saying rank is something that you should judge yourself around.
Right. Yeah. And
absolutely not.
It's so true because rank, all it is a measure of your progression, and that's where you're at. And we are all humans. Regardless of background, we are all equal in that regard. Where we're not equal is if we have done things that other people haven't, and you've dedicated your life to an art that where other people's haven't. You can't identify as a black belt, okay?
Truth.
You have to go through the torturous path that's full of struggle, that's full of sacrifice, that's full of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears to get the gift that's on that other side. Mm-hmm. No one's entitled to that.
And when you get into higher ranks, it starts to become your responsibility to pass that knowledge on.
Yes.
To educate others and to bring and create more black belts.
Honestly, I learned more teaching than I really felt like I learned more about the dynamics of the art and everything when I was teaching people and helping them along than when I was training on my own. And I feel like that colored everything in such a different way to have to help bring somebody along or be that person that's basically got to say okay, yes, I can have a class and I can get some of my training in, but I'm going to spend a lot of this time trying to help a student that's a few ranks lower than I am. And it really helped me learn and refine all of my techniques and everything else. That's a very important aspect to it. So we mentioned something before we started this podcast, and I want to get your opinion on it because I need to throw this grenade in the middle of everything and see what happens.
Oh, God.
And that is, give me your view on participation trophies.
Let's cringe.
Go. Come on.
I cringe. Guess what? Sometimes showing up isn't enough.
It isn't enough.
Sorry. Fact. And guess what? Like, this is where we do nothing but promote a weak culture that does not promote growth, because just that very definition, growth, to become better, means you are at a certain level, and that is okay. There is nothing wrong with being where you are and wanting to get to a higher level. And I'm scared because, well, it's a higher level and we're all this, like, that's where I'm frightened that this way that we're going with just the current times is that they're going to start attacking these things. They're going to start attacking. Right. Well, can't we all be black? No, we can't all be black belts. Mm-hmm. Did you put in the time? No. Or did you just participate?
Right. And
yep.
I'd have
dojos that rank up on attendance, like that's something that really irritates me. That's a very irritating thing. Is you've gone to this number of classes, now it's time for you to test for a new belt. That is to me, that's just an incredibly wrong way to go about everything involved in moving forward in rank.
Yeah.
I think if you look at how life is structured, there's always a good and a bad, a win and a loss, happiness, sadness. I really think that this participation trophy and nobody losing is doing everybody a giant disservice.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And it's laziness on the side of parents and teachers and coaches. It's laziness, pure laziness. If you have a person who is in a growth phase of their life, or a child, and you're not teaching them the skills to handle loss, disappointment, sadness, you're doing them a disservice.
Yes.
If you neuter that out of their life by always giving them the satisfaction of getting something or being rewarded for just showing up, you're completely stealing experiences that they are going to need later in life in order to cope and to deal with a sometimes harsh world.
It happens. It's life.
Yeah.
You can't give away black belts like Oprah, man. You can't be like, you get a black belt and you get a black belt. And you get look under your chair. There's a black belt. Like, you're a 10th degree now. It's all good.
Yeah.
We can't do it that way. I think you learn a lot by failing, and you learn a lot by losing.
Exactly. And that's why I'm scared. I'm scared that it's going away. Like,
absolutely.
Oh man, it's scary.
Yeah.
Tournament days were always one of those stressful days when we had the school and I'm sending like 40 kids to a tournament. We're all competing in the whole thing. Cause it's like, man, like, I know there's going to be kids that are upset because they didn't place. I know there's ones that are going to be happy. And, I've got to sit there and tell them, like, you know what? I realize that we've got trophies for 1st through 4th. If it were up to me, there'd be a trophy for 1st place. And that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. Like, and you'll know where you rank in there.
Yeah.
But that really gives you that thing to kind of strive for. And then you're right. Our mentality just on a societal level is vastly different now. We don't want anybody to be hurt. Yeah. Nobody should go home crying. None of that should happen. But man, I've learned a lot when I've been in tears.
Exactly.
And so that kind of, that fire really does harden you. It's like steel, right? It's like steel. It's like carbon steel. When they're making that sword, it's like, it's got to go into the fire to get the hard edge, to maintain the hard edge, and to be able to last a really long time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we really need to bring back and focus on, is that mentality.
But how do we when it's so commonplace now that we don't let our kids fail. We don't let people experience loss. We don't let people experience what it's like to be rejected, what it's like to be to not have things not work out. That is a part of life.
And and it sets you up for it. I mean, just look business wise for you guys. If you're trying to start a business and somebody's sitting there telling you like, well, it's going to be fine. Like, I know you're learning, but like, you're gonna have income like no matter what on your business or whatever else, and it doesn't matter if you have a crap product or not. Like that's not a way to sustain any kind of success, because when you're out in the real world, it doesn't work that way. And if you don't perform, you lose.
Mm-hmm. And you just run the numbers on it. If we're just talking straight up entrepreneurship, 9 out of 10 businesses fail.
Yeah.
Yet you only see the ones on Instagram that are winning. You only see the ones that are like doing amazing. Yep. But if you enter entrepreneurship, there's a 90% chance that you are in the bad side of the coin. Mm-hmm. Take marriage. Like I'm just gonna. It's a coin toss. Like there's a 50% chance that you are going to get divorced. That's just math. Like there's no. Yeah. And how do you deal with that? Does that make you less of a person? Does that, because half of North America is dealing with that. Half or 90% of entrepreneurs are dealing with loss. Like, you need to know how to cope with that. We've lost how many businesses?
Dude, like, and honestly, I'm not even joking. This is the scary part, where when I heard that statistic, it's like 90% of businesses fail. It's like, well, yeah, but they're not me. You know?
Yes.
That's what, and then when I look at my track record, it's like 95% failure rate.
Yeah. We have a boneyard of businesses before this.
Of failed startups, businesses that went nowhere, functioning businesses that went bust.
Frick, man. Yeah. It's crazy to think, and then to take away those lessons from young people and to not have them, give them the ability to know how to cope with them.
Yeah. It stunts their growth.
And it opens people up for a lot of psychological and mental turmoil.
Yeah. And fragility. And I think that's a lot of where the fragility is coming from. Like, we've been bubble wrapped.
Yeah.
We don't, like, yeah, I want my sandwich on a platter. And you know, like it's like we've had things too good for too long. Life, right. we have lived, we do not know what war rations feels like. We do not know what it's like to truly suffer. We've been living in 70 years of peace times, you know. We have got such a beautiful, abundant life, but it's never enough. And it just feels like this, the way things have been going, we've gotten so used to things being so good that they got to be even better, and it's never good enough. You know, when we put things into perspective and we understand that, you know, I mean, just look at World War II. You know, 20-somethings going off to war. You know,
of course.
Like, holy man, we know nothing about that.
Nothing.
We know nothing about that.
Leaving families behind, leaving kids behind. And yeah, absolutely into the jaws of the beast,
man,
for sure.
Man, it's so crazy. So like, and it reminds me of that week, the cycle where it's like, this is the cycle that we're in. We're in a weak cycle because hard times create strong humans. Strong humans create good times. Good times create weak humans. Weak humans create hard times. Hard times create strong humans. And the cycle continues.
Yeah.
Man, that just blew my mind right there. Bam. That whole cycle thing. I'm going to have to recover from that for like a day or two. Holy moly. No, that's absolutely right. I used to tell people before test day in the dojo, even just to put this on a more micro scale, right? And I'd ask them before the test started. I say, why do I do this test that lasts hours and put you through all this, really physical, difficult stuff? Like, why? Why don't I just hand you a belt since you know everything you need to know? And a lot of times people are like, we'd much prefer you just hand me the belt. And my answer to that was always, who am I to take away your sense of actually truly accomplishing something? I don't want to do that to you. I want you to walk away with that feeling that I had after my black belt test, even though you're going for a yellow.
Yeah.
Where you had to work so hard and you were really pushed and you did it, and it's going to feel so, so good. Right. When this test is over and you're out. And I had kids that would go out of the building and they'd hold their belt up to the sun. And they were like, it was like like an angelic chorus was singing to that. It was like, oh, and they're holding their belts up and they're like, it's so beautiful. Like, and all these kinds of things. I'm like, man, those are the moments that you need to have, because
Big
you really
time.
did something.
And
So
the cool part about that was that in order for them to experience that beautiful moment, they need to know what the other side feels like. Because what is joy without sorrow? What is good without bad? And so we're living in a fantasy if we think that we can only live in good times and we can only live in nothing but joy. And that's great, but that's not the world we live in. We live in a dualistic universe. There is opposites. And so what is hot without cold? If everything was hot, there would be no cold.
Yes.
If everything was blue, there would be no blue. Because you could not tell the color blue. Because what's blue? I don't know. It all looks the same. Yeah, exactly.
It's all blue.
Right.
It's all blue.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of diversity.
It's the beauty of life.
And that's the beauty of all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the real world's going to chew you up if you're just coddled the whole time, man. That's the way it works. And it really will. It's a very, very big reality check.
Big time. So your student that got to experience that, he probably, it's so much better. How much better is the victory after you've been slugging it out?
Right.
When you've been grinding, oh man. And that grind is that pit and the achievement is that pillar.
Yeah.
And if without the pit, there is no pillar.
Yes.
Because and that's exactly why people don't value shit that's been given to them. You didn't earn it.
If you take a look at a kid who is like a trust fund baby or just had anything handed to them, I sometimes feel sorry for those kids because they've had no experience of the other side of the coin. Mm-hmm. So they have this massive amount of wealth and riches and ability to do whatever, but it brings them zero happiness.
Right.
Because that is their normal. That is, they have no other side of the coin, no reference point to find fulfillment in any of those activities that they do. And you're just like, man, almost like that's such a waste, because they were given it. They didn't earn it. They didn't earn that wealth. And
it's almost impossible to have gratitude for it.
Exactly. They have no gratitude.
So can we come up with a Budo Brothers challenge? I know this is a big one because this is a really wide-ranging discussion on rank, right? Because it hits on all sorts of different things. Mm-hmm. But is there a challenge that you would have in mind as far as rank or participation trophies? Everybody's a winner, or there's a black belt on you get a black belt and you get a black belt. Is there something you can think of that we could do to challenge somebody as far as rank goes?
I don't necessarily know if rank would be the right word I would use for this, but if there is some type of metric in your life where you feel like you're a little bit behind on, let's say it's the scale, let's say it's your bank account, let's say it's any type of metric where you're kind of feeling, a bit behind on, compared to other things, rather than run away from it, lean into it and start questioning what are the things that I can learn or do or change in order to get me to the next level or the next rank.
Yep. Nice. What are the concrete steps? Absolutely.
Love it.
Good stuff, man. Any final thoughts on rank before we wrap this one up?
Rank is a good thing. And you know what? It is very helpful in martial arts and in life. You're ranked by age. You've experienced life, and we should respect that. We should celebrate it.
And at the same time, not be trapped within it.
Yes.
Absolutely. And also become a black belt at listening to this podcast and subscribe.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yes.
Definitely.
It's very important. If you subscribe to the podcast, it will be a black belt underneath your chair. We'll go with something like that.
Yeah.
Where can people find us?
People can find us on all the internet things. Just give Budo Brothers a search. We're really working hard on our YouTube channel right now. The podcast, make sure you subscribe to both. We're getting more into email marketing, so make sure you subscribe to our mailing list.
Definitely.
There
lots
is
of perks in there.
Lots of perks that we're going to be putting in there. That's where we're going to be giving out the giveaways. And just reach out any way you can. We even take smoke signals, SOS, all the good stuff.
I have sent a raven to you both.
Perfect.
We'll talk that way now.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. This is really good. This is really good stuff and a great discussion. I really appreciate you two.
All right. Thanks so much, David.
And absolutely. And we will catch everybody on the next episode.
We'll see you next week.
Awesome.
Yep.